Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series Rescue the Rockies. And we are just past the midway point of this 2038 season. Rockies are having another very strong season, 55-27 record, 10.5 games ahead of the San Diego Padres, who we will be facing off against in a series beginning today. Not going to be a lot of ground covered in this episode. We're taking a look ahead at our schedule for these next few days in the month of July. We've got the 3 games against San Diego and then 3 on the road against the Dodgers before we return home for a 4-game homestand against the Cincinnati Reds, followed by 3 games against Pittsburgh. We'll only be simming up through the first 3 games of that Cincinnati series because the first-year player draft will be taking place on July 11th. So we've just got a little bit of action that we're going to go over these next 10 days or so until we get to the first-year player draft, and then we will see who is on the clock, take a look at some of the top prospects available with our pick at the end of the first round, and then hopefully turn things over to the worldwide scouting department to get some suggestions on which direction we should go. As I noted, the season going very well for our Padres, for our Rockies, 10.5 games up on the Padres. The battle for the best record in baseball at 55-27. We are 5 games better than the Minnesota Twins in that race, and we are 5.5 up on the Marlins in the race for the best record in the National League. And unfortunately, not a great result in Kansas, San Diego. Boy, can't say any of these names right. I don't know what's going on with my brain today. But San Diego, we did extend our winning streak to 9 games, taking the first game of the series, but then lost the final 2 games in San Diego. So we've got a 9.5 game lead in the division at this point. As I noted, 3 against the Dodgers and 3 against the Reds at home before we get to the draft. And we did take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers the hard way. Meant to check in before we got to the Cincinnati Reds series on one of our premier former players, and as it turns out, he happened to hit his 400th home run yesterday, so the timing of me thinking about Gus Nieves was pretty good. Former star for us, now up to 400 home runs in his career. He is with those Padres, so we just faced him in that series not too long ago. Having a bit of a bounce-back year. The batting average only .234, but he does have 18 home runs and 52 ribbies in just 265 at-bats. So the veteran has put up a 122 WRC plus and half a win above replacement thus far this year. Still in retrospect, I think that we timed our exit from him just about perfectly because his home run production has dropped each of his first 3 seasons in San Diego from the 48 that he hit in his final year with us. Clearly with 18 home runs this year, just past the midway point of the season, if he's able to stay healthy, should probably have his first 30-plus home run season in 4 years, but definitely has not been the player that he was for us since he went to San Diego, and is now heading into his late 30s. Does have the 400 home runs now, over 1,000 runs driven in. Didn't begin his major league career until the age of 27, which probably curtails his Hall of Fame aspirations, but certainly has been a very productive major league hitter in the now slightly over a decade that he has been playing in Major League Baseball. And we'll be heading into the draft on a 5-game winning streak as we took the first 3 games against Cincinnati. So even with the little bit of a setback against the Padres, still 10.5 games up on them, right where we were at the start of this episode as we get ready for the draft. Our 61-30 record, still 5.5 games better than the Miami Marlins, as well as the Minnesota Twins. Those two now tied for the second best record in baseball. Mike Castro second in the batting race. Anthony Pack Jr. third in steals. Castro is second in batter WAR. Leo Martinez second in ERA and third in pitcher WAR. And Bernie Barrera, with a 12-2 record, continues to lead the National League in victories. Did get another piece of bad news, though, unfortunately. Kevin Roberts Jr., intercostal strain, going to be out for about 3 weeks. That'll be his second trip to the IL this season. Missed a month earlier, hitting .288, 16 homers, 45 ribbies with 15 steals in 51 games played. So he's put up an outstanding 184 WRC plus while he has been healthy. The issue is only that by the time he gets back from this injury, it's likely to be August, and he'll have missed roughly half of the season at that point, unfortunately. As I noted at the start of the episode, though, our primary focus of this episode is going to be taking a look at some of the top players available in the draft. We will not be picking until number 34 overall. So odds are the best players available will not be around. Take a look here at Draft Central, and guessing that these 80 ceiling players are very unlikely to be around when we get on the board, but you never know. There's always some surprises in the draft, and we will find out very shortly who is available for us. It looks like there is 180 ceiling player available, a reliever, interestingly. Looks like the top-end players who are still on the board tend to be pitchers. Taking a look at what our scout recommends, starting pitcher Cody Edgy Sedgley. Looks like he could have pretty good stuff and pretty good movement. The control of potential issue, going to really be reliant on that changeup developing to develop a 3-pitch arsenal. Outstanding stamina, not all that good at holding on runners. Certainly Edgy Sedgley is a interesting prospect to consider. Our scout also likes center field Victor Caton. Really good contact hitter, like the durability, respectable corner outfield, doesn't have necessarily the greatest instincts in the field when he's playing. Center fielder Judson Curry, pretty well-balanced bat. His top trait is that gap power, and he's got pretty good speed to go with it. Nice arm in the outfield, and do like the high ethic and the high work ethic and baseball IQ. Last but not least, our scout really likes second baseman Tristan Warfield. Really good-looking contact-hitting prospect. Not the greatest defensive-looking prospect that I have ever seen. Taking a look at the mock draft and who's available. A few guys who should have, in theory, been off the board. Shortstop Tim Weiss was expected to go to Baltimore. Potentially outstanding power and a great eye. Going to strike out a ton, and doesn't seem to have the greatest prospects as far as a contact hitter. He was projected to go 20th overall. Another shortstop, Joe Burgess, projected to go to the Yankees. Some negative personality traits there. Impressive-looking contact hitter, offensively not all that great at anything else, at least according to our scout. Another shortstop was projected to go 25th to the Dodgers, Fernando Cisneros out of Kent State University. Solid-looking infield prospect. Looks like he could be a useful major league player, but probably not a superstar. Two other players also expected to be off the board who aren't both center fielders. Sergio Herrera, 18-year-old Nicaraguan player who's a switch hitter. The issues are his contact and strikeouts. Everything else about him looks pretty interesting, at least offensively. And the last guy who was expected to already be off the board, center fielder Vinny Fernandez. I believe we already talked about Vinny. I think our scout likes him. No, that was Victor Catone. Can tell it's late at night because I'm already making a lot of silly mistakes. And it looks like through this first round, very heavy on the hitting prospects. You can see there's nobody with even 70 potential left on the draft board at this point for our 34th overall pick. We'll check in on one player with a 60 ceiling, the third baseman out of Florida Atlantic, Ryan Komorek. Another guy with that mediocre contact, really bad at avoiding strikeouts profile that we've seen among a few players in this draft. Potentially a really good eye, very weird combination, a guy who's going to strike out a record-setting number of times, but also potentially walk a record-setting number of times. Doesn't look all that good defensively, not a ton of speed. Other than that, we'll take a look at all of the 65 potential position players here. Shortstop Tim Weiss, he's got that same profile. We did talk about him already. Potentially really interesting power and eye, pretty good speed. The contact's going to be the potential issue with Weiss. Tristan Warfield, another guy that we've already talked about. The contact with him is what's excellent. Everything else is kind of in the middle of the range. Don't love his speed or his defense at this point, but he is an 18-year-old, certainly could improve. Top catching prospect, according to our scout, is Earl O'Malley. Looks like a decent contact hitter who will draw some walks. Not particularly impressive defensively, however. Center fielder William Mendez, really good contact and gap power combination. Decent speed, another guy with low baseball IQ, a few of them in the pool. Poor power, and his eye at best is going to be a little below average, our scout thinks. Center fielder Tom McNeil, 18-year-old, pretty well-balanced hitting profile, most reliant on his gap power and his speed, like the high adaptability and work ethic. Looks like he's looking for a ton of money. In theory, he is going to be impossible to sign, but as we saw last year, that just means we need a lot of money. It doesn't mean that you can't actually execute on these players. Second baseman Jael Eisenberg, like the high leadership, adaptability, and work ethic. Not the greatest defensive prospect in the world. Pretty good contact hitter. Everything else with the bat kind of in the average-ish range. Left fielder Christian Ordonez, 18-year-old out of Puerto Rico. Looks like a pretty solid hitting prospect. Think he can be slightly above average in just about everything if he reaches his full potential. Not a great-looking defensive player. Not a very good base runner at all. Judson Curry, center fielder, pretty well-balanced profile. Like the gap power and speed combination. Also think the home run power and the eye could be above average. Think the contact could be above average too. The work ethic and baseball IQ are positive. Pretty solid defensively. Unfortunately, the Canadian prospect has been facing a poor competition level in British Columbia. Center fielder Victor Catone, already talked about him. Like the high leadership, loyalty, and work ethic. Don't love the low baseball IQ. Do like the durability. Pretty good-looking contact hitter. Not a ton of home run pop in the bat. And then first baseman Ryan Alfson, switch hitting, 6'3" first baseman. Looks like he'll be competent defensively at first, and a useful-ish looking bat. Can't say that I am particularly enamored with any of these prospects. I think on paper I kind of like Judson Curry, but the competition level being so low is always a little bit of a fear for me. My hope is that we find someone we're more interested in among the top pitchers in this draft pool. Jack Goodyear, relief prospect, 21-year-old out of the University of Toronto. So another Canadian player who's been facing a poor competition level. Our scout thinks he could be a pretty dominant relief pitcher, though. The right-hander expected to get over 100 miles in terms of his velocity. Think his stuff could be absolutely filthy with well above average movement and above average control. Not a ton of stamina, great at holding on runners, and the high leadership, work ethic, and baseball IQ are all positives for C.I. Goodyear. Already talked about Cody Edgy Sedgley, interesting looking starting pitching prospect, given that three-pitch arsenal is going to be very dependent on development of that poor changeup, and we don't have huge expectations as far as his control. Probably not quite as high on him as our scout happens to be. Ryan Deanna, left-handed reliever, also known as Sevi, out of Hewitt, Texas. Really difficult personality, cuts corners during workouts, low leadership, adaptability, work ethic, and baseball IQ. The four ratings that I care the most about, he's poor in all of them. Okay stamina for a reliever. Think his stuff could be really nice. Above average movement, but the control looks like it's going to be an issue. Don't see any scenario where Deanna ends up on our team. Justin Morgan, 21-year-old out of University of Louisiana Lafayette. Not too far from being a useful major leaguer. Decent stamina, going to be reliant on that changeup developing to really have a three-pitch arsenal, though. With that changeup, though, we think his stuff and his movement could both be a little above average with well above average control. So certainly a interesting-looking prospect who's been facing a good level of competition in college. I won't bore you going through all of the 65 ceiling prospects. As you can see, there's a few with some personality quirks, and then a lot of them have very low stamina. They're all listed as relief pitchers, but not really a lot of expectations that any of them with their pitch arsenals and their stamina could make a reasonable probability transition to being a starter, at least in my mind. We'll go over the three most interesting prospects of the bunch as far as I'm concerned. One is the one who actually is listed as a starting pitching prospect. That's Ezekiel Bushy Caban. I think that his stuff could be above average, average-ish movement, slightly above average control. Has a potential four-pitch arsenal, a lot of work to do with that slider. Okay with stamina, okay at holding on runners, faced a fair competition level at the Puerto Rico Baseball Academy. Certainly not a blue chip prospect, but at this point, still an interesting player to consider. Closer John Davis, a 21-year-old out of Washington State, been facing a great competition level. With his stamina, hard to imagine a scenario where he could develop into a starting pitcher. Do like the high work ethic and baseball IQ. Don't love the high leadership. Has an absolutely filthy fastball and slider already at the age of 21. His stuff is major league quality. We think his movement and control could both be above average for a major leaguer if he reaches his full potential. Certainly an interesting prospect, but definitely a guy whose highest and best and most logical use is going to be out of the bullpen. The other guy that was intriguing to us is the reliever Edwards Gadget Serrano. 40 stamina, so he's borderline to kind of be a five-ish inning type of starter, maybe decent at holding on runners, high baseball IQ. Unfortunately, right now he's only got a two-pitch arsenal, fastball and change. If he were able to add a third pitch in there, could certainly get more interesting. We think his stuff could be absolutely awesome. Movement a bit above average. The control potential issue for him. The lefty, whose birthday is today, is likely to be drafted by somewhere. Don't know that we will take the Arkansas prospect, but among the lower regarded by our scout players. Caban, Davis, and Edward Serrano were the most interesting looking to me when I went in and looked at their overall profiles. One final guy we'll look at, someone who's highly regarded by the draft pipeline, and that's the starting pitcher prospect Rhett Blow out of University of Washington. Looks like a decent starting pitching prospect. Solid stamina, like the adaptability and work ethic. Going to need that sinker to develop, but think that he could be a useful back of the rotation type starter in the not too distant future. So honestly, not the greatest and most interesting class that I've ever seen, in my opinion. Obviously, I'll be spending a lot more time taking a look at the pool of pitchers as well as the pool of position players before I need to make a decision on where to go with our first round picks and some of our other picks. Again, there's no one that totally stands out to me as a pound the table guy that I feel incredibly strongly about. So it feels like a draft where the worldwide scouting department might be able to push me in one direction or another, since I don't have a very strong opinion, and I can't say based on this initial review I'm really in love with any of these prospects. So the Rockies continue to play some really good baseball, which is positive. Don't say that I'm in love with anyone available in the draft, as we've talked about, and certainly also not thrilled that we just lost our franchise player for 3 weeks. That being said, as we sit here on July 11th, our Rockies are still in a very good spot, and hopefully we'll be able to add somebody to help us in our future in the draft. The last thing we'll check on before the end of the episode is just who's available on the trade block. Always interesting to get the thoughts of the worldwide scouting department on the players that are available. Left fielder James Wood, assuming he's in the final year of his contract with the Yankees. Yankees are having a rough year. Left-handed hitting outfielder might not be the worst thing for us to add. Looks like he must have been hurt again this year, because he's only played 28 games, 24 starts at the major league level. He is fragile physically, almost 36 years old. Meant to click on his injury history, and all of a sudden, again, there we go. Being so late. He missed 3 or 4 weeks with a sprained ankle, missed a month and a half with a sprained knee. Recovered recently from back spasms. Tend to think the cost for him should not be too high given his age and his injury proneness in the last year of his contract, but on the settings, you never know what you're going to see. Looks like he is definitely attainable, but we would need to give up a frontline player or a frontline prospect to do it, which seems perhaps a little high for a rental of an expensive injury-prone veteran with no work ethic. Our buddy Ted Miller has been on the trade block for the last few years. Not that we've dealt him away. Second baseman Dan Ruby can play second or short. Pretty solid, respectable-looking major leaguer, almost 30 years old. He is in the final year of his contract, getting ready to head for free agency as a 2-time All-Star. Definitely more attainable, although still need to generally give up interesting prospect, but not necessarily a top-end prospect in all cases, to bring on Ruby. Shortstop Warren Calcano, pretty impressive defensive player, although unfortunately he only knows how to play shortstop at this point. The 30-year-old is fragile physically. Another guy who looks like he's had some injury issues this year. Very good speed. The switch hitter in the final year of his contract as well. Calcano Only going to get him for Chris Kennedy or Leo Martinez. So to me, seems very unlikely that we would end up trying to bring Warren Calcano on board. Certainly some other players that we will look through offline as well. Pitching wise, don't necessarily see us having any material needs on the pitching side. Could bring on Yamamoto from the Dodgers, though, if they're willing to trade him in the division. You can see a lot of familiar names in baseball here today. Sasaki, Yamamoto, foremost among them on the trade block here, nearing the end of their careers. Ryan Kerkering as well on the trade block. Taj Bradley among some of the other veterans. Yamamoto still a more than respectable major league starter in the final year of his contract. 7-4 with a 2.91 ERA. He is exercising his 10-5 rights, so not necessarily a realistic target there. I can see certainly some other interesting-ish pitchers available, but given the depth of our pitching staff at the major league level, not necessarily sure that we're going to be doing anything there. So with that, it is time to call it an episode. Would love your thoughts on what, if anything, we should do as the trade deadline approaches, and more importantly than that, what you recommend doing in this first-year player draft. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.